What is up, guys? Today is Wednesday, June 11th. I almost forgot the day again. I ended up only taking one trade today, and that one trade was a winner, but I wasn't too happy on my execution with it, and let's get into why that's the case. So for today, I came in with a bullish bias. I was looking to target that 22.01950 level. That is a previous level of liquidity, and then overall going to this 279.50. And the reason why was, if you look here on the 4-hour time frame, we do have bullish structure overall. If we drop down to the hourly time frame, we see that here this morning we had a 1-hour fair value gap that we were holding from overnight. We did dip lower, but then started to push back on up to the daily open, and if this hourly fair value gap held, I was going to end up looking for longs this morning. And as you can see with news in the pre-market, we actually pushed on higher, and so with that, I thought we were going to get some kind of a retracement and then continuation to continue moving higher to that level up there. Along with that hourly fair value gap, we also had this 15-minute fair value gap that got created with news as well. And so if that continued to hold us, then I had a very good feeling that we were going to move higher. So because of the confluences that I had to go higher, I decided to go and take a trade during the 950 macro. So if you see here, we had this 1 minute fair value gap that was right here that was acting as resistance to price. We did have a closure on the level. I waited and was a little more conservative and waited for the closure outside of that fair value gap. So my entry was right here, put my stop below the low, and I was targeting this data high right here for my first TP, which would have been a 1 to 1.82 risk to reward. So the trade didn't really see that much drawdown. As you can see, it was only red a couple of times, but price was moving on up very, very slowly. At most, the trade hit a 1 to 1.3, so not even a 1 to 1.5, but because price was stalling so much, I should have taken off at least one contract at a 1 to 1, which would have been good. Unfortunately, I held the entire position. At this point, because it was stalling, I decided to just move my stop to slightly above break even, and then here we had this massive drop literally in like 3 minutes, taking out all of the gain that we had from this morning here. And then as it started to move back on up, I decided to take my gain fully off at less than a 1 to 1, just because of the huge reaction that we had right here. So yeah, that was the trade that I took this morning. Now, if I was bullish still here in this AM3 macro, there was really no entry that I could have seen, because of the fact that, number one, we hadn't retraced from this push on up. I would have preferred a retracement first. And secondly, we did not get any kind of bearish fair value gap created within the macro to then invalidate. So that was not there, right? The model wasn't there over at all. Now, as price moved down into this area here for the lunch macro, I was looking to see if there was something I could take there. If you see, I marked out this 5-minute fair value gap right here from this move down. I wanted to see this get reclaimed again in order to end up feeling confident about taking longs. But as you can see, we failed to do that. And so that, of course, led me to being bearish, because if you look on the 5-minute time frame, there was bearish order flow overall. We had that high, the lower, or the higher low that got created. We put in a lower high here, okay? That right there was the first sign. Then we had a bearish fair value gap right there that we failed. We touched once and we failed to close back above. So being bullish during the New York lunch macro did not make sense to me. And overall, on the 15-minute, we were still holding that 15-minute fair value gap, so I didn't want to take anything during that macro because it just did not seem right to me. Now, coming into that New York PM session macro, this is where the order flow changes on the 15-minute chart. As you can see, we actually got a 15-minute candle closure below that 15-minute fair value gap right there, and also invalidated the bullish 15-minute fair value gap that got created here. So now that can act as resistance, because we knew it was supposed to be support before, got broken, it can now become resistance. So price moves up into it before the New York PM session macro, and we actually end up pushing and rejecting from that. We also noticed that we did have the 10 a.m. open where we moved up, displaced back down, we're coming back up, and then failing to take out any kind of bearish PD arrays here. There were bearish fair value gaps that were being failed to be invalidated. They were being respected. So I'm like botching it. I'm being a little confusing, but the bearish fair value gaps were being respected. So overall, we had a good hunch that we were going to move back down lower on this macro. So the trade for that, which was probably the best trade today, we had that retracement back up into that 15-minute inversion fair value gap, rejection off of it, 1-minute inversion fair value gap to the downside gets created. You market order in as soon as that happens, and you target the swing low that we have right here as your low hanging fruit, and that gave you a 1 to 5 risk to reward. So that right there was the best setup. I unfortunately was not able to capitalize on that. I was not around to trade in the PM session, and we sold off after the fact. So now here in the last hour, would I have taken any trade? No. Would I have taken a long? No, just because of the way price action has been moving lately. It stalls, then moves, stalls again, moves, stalls, moves. It's not clean. And seeing as to how this long and then that short played out, you honestly shouldn't have even been trading that last hour. And at this point, I mean, I guess you could have considered a long because it did sweep liquidity right here on a higher time frame. I'm sure that's a swing low on a higher time frame, but the order flow was still bearish, so it wouldn't have been even a solid setup in my opinion. So green day today. I did get lucky. I will admit I did get lucky with the fact that we did bounce back up, and I decided to sell right here, pretty much almost top tick this, but my execution could have been much better. So yeah, hopefully you guys ended up green, and I will see you all tomorrow. Peace.